So thank you so much for joining me. My last question to you as well is, where do we go from here? Because so many people, they're interested in this. They're interested in not only our country, but also globally, where America is leading, where Western civilization is leading and going, and hopefully not being dismantled. And so if there's one thing one piece of advice that you could give to American voters, what would it be? And also, what would your advice be to President Trump, who clearly is going to be running again in 2024?
I hesitate to presume to advise the entire electorate of the United States, speaking more than 200 million people, but most Americans, in my experience, despite everything that's gone on, are proud of their country, and they're right to be. It is a great country. There are imperfections in it, and I think, as an outsider, it is not altogether a bad thing that the old American mythos of being a unique democracy in the world and so on has been re-examined. I mean, there are other democracies in the world, and one of the ironies of our times is that the world, and it must never cease to recognize and be grateful for this fact, owes chiefly to the United States the spread of democracy and the free enterprise system all over the world in my lifetime. But the irony is that the United States at this moment is not as well functioning a democracy as many others. I mean, you don't have problems like this in Canada or Britain or Australia or Denmark or something, but that's not the point. We're all democracies. So my advice would be, don't lose faith in the country or the system. It's a great country. It's the best system. And you're the great propagators of it. Just fine-tune it. Just try and decide who your office holders are and require both parties to work together to repair whatever imperfections there are in the system as best you can. I mean, all countries do it, and you've amended your own constitution often in that general motive. And let's get back to the business of rational self-government. And if the people want to change from the bipartisan elite that's governed in Washington since Reagan's time, they're entitled to it. And they shouldn't be resisted by recourse to illegalities. And as for the ex-president, who I do speak with occasionally, I mean, I never presume to call him, but I occasionally hear from him. I've known him a long time. I would urge him to run again, but I would urge him to do it a little differently and make as much effort as he can to avoid those things, even though they're often amusing and are often justified, but those particular flourishes of his that enable his enemies to portray him mistakenly and often in a defamatory way as an extremist, to surprise his opponents by becoming a less vulnerable target without compromising at all in the policy message that he's giving to the voters and particularly to his followers. He was, in policy terms, as most people admit, an excellent president, and it was a very successful term despite unprecedented harassments and illegal harassments by his opponents. And I think if he gets a little bit Lincolnian and is a little more patient and less angry and good-humored, although I don't wonder it's hard to do it after they ransack your wife's closets and things for no reason. And you have, the former director of national intelligence telling the world that he's a Russian intelligence asset and things like that. I wouldn't myself not necessarily be able to follow my own advice and be good-humored about it, but try to be as little a target for the penchant of his enemies to portray him as an extremist. Pitch it to real policy questions where he's almost unassailable. I mean, for the current White House press secretary to say they were replacing a broken immigration system is simply scandalous. She should have her mouth washed out of soap. But try and take the high road as much as you can. and he has a chance to be one of the great presidents of American history.
Indeed, and we'll look forward to 2024 and hopefully get this country back on track. And Conrad Black, I so appreciate your time. Everyone needs to follow him on social media, on Twitter at Conrad M. Black. You can get his book, A President Like No Other, Donald J. Trump, in stores and on Amazon. Also, your website is conradmblack.com. And thank you so much for your time, and I hope that you will come back often and have these kinds of discussions. I think my listeners have been thoroughly impressed and very well informed by your analysis and opinions, and I sincerely appreciate your dedication to this form of genuine intellectual conversation. And I so love and respect you. So thank you for all that you're doing.
Thank you so much, Jen. You're much too flattering, but that's no less appreciated for that. Be happy to do it again.
Well, it's very true and very genuine. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
90.5 KTXG Greenville, Dallas.
I'd ask of you is faithfulness. Headlines in USA Today. Did you see it this morning? All the odds against us. Faithfulness is the word.
There's a place for you on the battle line. Engage in the fight for America's families. Visit AFA.net and then take your position. A message from the American Family Association.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
The following program contains elements of programming that are previously recorded and may appear as live.
Welcome to Hope Reigns, a show brought to you by 8 Days of Hope, where we share God-sized stories from the mission field all around the country. Now, here are your hosts, Steve Tiber and Mike Fiala.
Well, welcome back to another week of Hope Reigns, a broadcast of 8 Days of Hope. It's so great to be with you today. My name is Steve Tiber. I'm one of 211 leaders of a ministry called 8 Days of Hope. We travel the country and we love and serve the brokenhearted, those after disasters like we are right now in Florida with the Hurricane Idalia, and so much more. But we're going to talk about that in a minute. But first, let me introduce the co-host, Mike Fiala.
Well, good morning.
How are you?
I'm doing great, and it is so good to see you back. Had a great show in the past week here with Pastor Scott Lackey, but Steve, it's just so good to see you. You had a vacation, a well-deserved vacation.
Oh, I snuck away.
Give us a snippet about that. I saw some great pictures on Facebook of the time you had.
Yeah, first of all, thank you to Scott and of course you, Mike, for kind of running the ship last week, Labor Day weekend. You know, I haven't had any time off in about a year and 4 months, other than 2 days, and I thought I got to take some time off. So check this out. We started in Pennsylvania. And we went to a Brandon Lake Phil Wickham concert.
Oh, yes.
Loved that. Moved my daughter into her college up in upstate New York, in Canton, New York, at SUNY Canton. We did that right after that. We also, my wife and I snuck away to Maine. And,
nice.
We wanted to go to a beach, and we wanted to get on one airline and just land and go to a beach. But I didn't know the water was going to be 63 degrees up in Maine. But I tell you, Mike, we were there 4 nights. I had lobster 3 different times.
Did you really?
I'm telling you, it's not only unbelievably tasty up in Maine, but it was cheap. So I like, you know me, man. I want to save some dollars. So, but we had a great time, and then just came home, and we had our granddaughter for the weekend.
Okay.
Yeah. So first time ever sleeping over our house. Eloise is about 14 months now, 13 and a half months. So her mom, Hannah, and Marco got to sneak away. So I tell you now, those 2 days probably were more exhausted than the other 10 days.
I know what it's like taking care of grandkids. But it was so good when I did text you and you said, well, I have my phone off. no emails,
none
and
of
you
it.
know, hats off to you. That's very hard to do in your position.
Well, I tell you what, hats off to Chandler Gurley and the team. I know that you had her on as a guest last week, but a hurricane came called Idalia, and Chandler and Dustin and Matt and all the leaders came together and made some amazing decisions. You know, I always tell people when you take some time off and you're a leader of anything, a church, a business, a family, right, taking a break,
Right.
you know, you can't second guess decisions. You just pray that what they've learned over the years and what you've modeled and just the process, right? There's a football coach in upstate New York at the Buffalo Bills, which I think you and I, that's our team. He always says, trust the process. Well, the process played out great, and they were prayed up, and they followed the Lord's lead. And so, as you know, Mike, for the last week, we've been in Perry, Florida.
Yes.
And I was such at peace knowing those decisions were being made. And, so it was a good trip.
But Steve, and again, hats off to yourself. You've raised up a great team by example. But then it's difficult, what you just said, to release them to do what they do, and hopefully that they do it like it needs to be done, and they are. You pick some great leaders.
You know, it's kind of like how do I work? It's kind of like starting a business or something, or I'm trying to. I don't know. You build something,
Sure,
and now you just entrust it. I didn't build anything. God built this ministry from the ground up. So let me rephrase that. My point is, when it's kind of something that's your passion, something that you've been a part of for 18 years, and you step away for a time period, but that's coming anyways.
Sure.
I mean, we all, that's leaders. If you're a leader of anything out there, you're a leader of a business, you're a customer service manager, you're a pastor, you're a parent. Our goal as leaders is to continue to pour and raise up other leaders, and so that's been being done as we speak in Perry, Florida, as well.
Yeah, and let me speak to that too a little bit longer on that. When I was running this worship team in my local church, eventually a couple of the team members said, "Why aren't you on the platform?" "Oh, well, I'm at the sound booth because I want to watch you grow. I've poured into you,
yes.
and you're doing some things now that are from your expertise
Sure.
that you wouldn't have done if I was on the platform. So
Right.
I could walk away today, and you're in the groove, and you're doing it your way and doing it God's way. So that's what you're doing too, leaders."
Well, Hurricane Idalia, as you know, Mike, the good news, it hit more a rural part of Florida, but then moved up right through Georgia, and flooding in a lot of communities. The amount of tree damage down in Florida, where our volunteers are at. Here's the good news. Hundreds of volunteers are serving with 8 Days of Hope this past week, this upcoming week. They're doing chainsaw work. We're using our bobcats, our bucket trucks. It doesn't make us anything special, but the only ministry I know that brings in multiple pieces of heavy equipment for the volunteers to use, and they're using it, and they're using it in a big way. It's been an amazing week. Also, this past week, Mike, we also launched our mass feeding arm.
Exciting.
And we got wind yesterday, and I know Matt's going to be a guest with us today for our second segment. Matt Schlegel is our mass feeding ministry director. First time we ever launched, we took our volunteers out there, our cooking volunteers, and they made their 5,000th meal yesterday. 5,000 meals.
I can't wrap my head around that. And I'm sure there are great meals that, Matt does a great job, putting that together.
Yeah, so, that was something new for us, and they're based at the same place. Not sure how that will look like in the future, but we just thought for the first trip, Chandler and team made the decision, let's deploy together. And I think that was wise, too.
Oh, absolutely.
Because it's not against our plan of having a rapid response team based at one church in one community, while our mass feeding's in other community. I mean, our mass feeding team could have gone to Valdosta, Georgia, where they had flooding and provided food there. But so today our guest, Mike, actually will be our rapid response manager, Dustin Sullivan, and this is his first deployment as our rapid response manager, working with Matt Schlegel, our first deployment of the mass feeding arm of the ministry as well. So a lot of firsts this past week.
I'm sure they got some great stories, and I can't wait to ask them those questions. Like, so what was it like to be leaders? A little nervous, but I'm sure they did a great job.
So maybe you're listening today and you're saying, "Hey, I want to get involved." There's still time. We'll be in Perry, Florida, at least to the 16th, which is next Saturday. We'll make the decision probably Monday, Tuesday of this week if we're going to extend it. It's always wise, if you're not on our email alert chain, to get on that. And it's simple. Just go to our website, 8daysofhope.com, submit your email address, and whenever we go anywhere, we'll invite you. Of course, it's free. We provide food and lodging, all the tools, all the leaders, the expertise, the heavy equipment, all the feeding have everything there. You just have to get there. But if you have time and you can sneak down to Perry, Florida, you got another week to do that.
Yeah, and think about the way it'll change your life. It'll change your thinking when you're down there serving and helping people, either tarping the roofs or mucking out. Talk about mucking out. Does everybody know what that means? I didn't at first.
Yeah, I was doing a TV interview a couple weeks ago, and the host said, "Well, what does mucking out mean?" I go, "Well, it's kind of like when you gut out your house." She goes, "Well, what does gutting out your house mean?" So you're right. We know what we're talking about. So when there's water damage in, let's just say Hurricane Harvey, Houston, 330,000 homes flooded. The average home had 6 feet of water.
Hi.
Welcome back.
You're
You
good.
doing okay?
Yeah.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good
God
day.
bless. Hey, you have a napkin for
Yeah.
this boat?
Well, over here,
Uh-huh.
those blue carts have towels.
Oh,
You
okay.
use them, and when you're done, you throw them in the back. There's even Windex if you want to wipe down the inside.
Uh-huh.
It's all over there. It's unlimited to you.
Oh, okay, good.
Okay?
Thank
Yeah,
you.
You're very welcome.
Cost that we haven't paid yet. So you can donate online at 8dayshope.com, PayPal, Venmo, Cash Apps. You can mail a check to our P.O. Box, and I'll mention the P.O. address at the end of the show. It's also on our website and our Facebook page. But every dollar you give will be spent on that food, or on those tarps, or on that fuel, or on that chainsaw. Again, if you want to help out with Canadian Galley down in Florida, you can do that at 8. Last thing we got to go break. faith-based organizations to provide a safe place where they can get the emotional, physical, and spiritual help they need. By coming alongside these organizations, we're able to use the skills needed to not only build safe places, but to provide an area where God can heal hearts, minds, and ultimately souls. If you're a professional builder, carpenter, framer, roofer, or an electrician looking to make a kingdom impact by using your skill set, please consider partnering with 8 Days of Hope. You must be 18 years old to volunteer and pass a background check. But for more information, you can email us at safehouse@8daysofhope.com or visit our website